हेलो एवरीवन। आज की क्लास में वी विल डिस्कस ग्राफ्स इन प्रैक्टिकल सिचुएशंस। उसी टॉपिक को हम कंटिन्यू करेंगे एंड टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस द स्पीड टाइम ग्राफ और यू कैन से द वेलोसिटी टाइम ग्राफ, and then we will discuss the few practice questions related to speed time graph, and at the end I will recommend few questions from book D4 7th edition. उसमें से कुछ क्वेश्चन मैं आपको रिकमेंड करूंगा, सिर्फ वही क्वेश्चंस आपने सॉल्व करने हैं रिलेटेड टू 4024 कोर्स. But before this, tell me what we have discussed in the last class. Let's revise it. In last class we have discussed the basic concept of graphs in practical situation, and then we have discussed the distance time graph and the importance of distance time graph, that if you find out the gradient तो आप उसमें speed find कर सकते हैं. And then we have discussed few recommended questions related to distance time graph exercise 9F में से. और अगर आपने वो क्वेश्चन मिस किए हैं, if you have missed any lesson, you can see the link in the description. So let's start our class. So speed is measured as distance moved over time, or you can say speed is equals to distance divided by time. For example, a car travels 50 kilometers in 1 hour. So what will be the speed? The speed will be 50 kilometer per hour. So you can find out the distance divided by time. Now note down one thing, that the unit of speed is meter per second or kilometer per hour. Last class में we have discussed the unit in miles per hour. वो भी हो सकता है, but usually we use these two units, meters per second or kilometer per hour. Speed time and velocity time graph. What does it mean? That in speed time graph we will use speed on vertical axis or y-axis and time on horizontal axis. The negative gradient shows that the rate is slowing down or deceleration. Similarly, in speed time graph or velocity time graph, if we find out the gradient, it means we are finding out this acceleration. Like in previous class, we have discussed this thing, that in distance time graph, if you find out the gradient, you are finding out the speed. So similarly, in speed time or velocity time graph, if you are finding out the gradient, it means you are finding out the acceleration. So if the gradient is negative, it means your object is deceleration. You are finding out the deceleration. Now velocity time graph, what does it mean? It describes the motion of object which are moving in a straight line. They can be used to show acceleration and to work out displacement. Now how to find out the displacement or how to find out the acceleration using the velocity time graph? When we can use them to determine whether or not the object is moving at any point, we can also use them to see what speed the object is traveling at that point in time. So using data the graph, we can calculate acceleration, or similarly we can easily find out the speed also. Speed also, and even the distance. Now how to find out the distance? The area under the speed time graph represents the distance traveled. Now this is a very important point, that if you in velocity time graph, if you find out the gradient, it means you are finding out the acceleration. But if you are finding out the area under the graph, it means you are finding out the speed. The distance. So now this graph is very important. It will clarify your concept. Now for the first time, for the first interval, you will see that the acceleration is uniform. you can see here that the acceleration is uniform. Now for the second one, the velocity is constant. Velocity is constant means there is no acceleration. Why no acceleration? Because the definition of acceleration is rate of change of velocity. Now you can see that if the velocity is constant, so acceleration will be 0. Similarly, here you will see the uniform acceleration. Why uniform acceleration in this portion? Because it is a straight line. The next portion is the constant velocity, and the last one is uniform acceleration. Now you can see here that it is moving downward. In this portion it is moving downward, and in the last portion you can see that it is moving downward. So we can say this thing that it is a uniform. Here you can say that it is the uniform deceleration. Now we have discussed this thing in detail, that in each portion what does it mean, that displace, how to find out the distance, how to find out the acceleration, and in this case the displacement is 118 meter. Why it is 118 meter? Because you have to find out the area under the curve. For distance you have to find out the area under the curve, and then you have to add it. You have to divide it into different portions. Now area under the curve you can easily find out. ट्राइंगल का एरिया भी फाइंड कर सकते हैं आप, ट्रिग्नोमेट्री में हम डिटेल में डिस्कस कर चुके हैं. एंड देन रेक्टेंगल, एंड देन ट्राइंगल, एंड देन पैरेललोग्राम, sorry, trapezium. So you can easily find out the area of each portion. So try it by yourself and try to find out the speed. I have shown the working here. यहाँ पे मैं इसकी वर्किंग भी साथ साथ बता रहा हूँ, but I recommend you can try to do it by yourself. The concept is very simple, that if you find out the gradient, it means you are finding out the acceleration, and if you are finding out the area under the curve, it means you are finding out the distance, and here in this case you have to find out the total distance covered. So you can see the total distance covered means that you have to find out the area for each case, and then you have to add them. Now this point you can see, this is a very common sense, that the steeper the slope of the line, the greater the acceleration. If the line slopes downward from left to right on the graph, this means that the object is slowing down, or you can say the deceleration. Now key points to remember, that in distance time graph the gradient of the line is acceleration, and negative gradient means deceleration. Flat section means constant velocity, not stopped. So constant velocity means there is no acceleration, and area under the graph is distance. Now you have to keep these 4 points in your mind, तो कभी भी आपका velocity time graph में आपको problem नहीं आएगी. Now you can see here, this is the graph. इन चारों points को graphically समझाया है कि you can see that the gradient, the first portion is the gradient, second one is plate, so constant speed, third one is also gradient, and the last one is negative gradient, means deceleration. And the area under the curve is the speed. So now let's see an example here, that here you have to find the distance for each interval. Now how to find the distance for each interval? Try it by yourself, और साथ साथ मैं इसकी working भी आपको show करा दूँ. So you can see here that this is the triangle, and this is basically the right angle triangle. So area under the first curve is 1/2 base into height. तो बेस क्या है आपके पास? बेस इज 4, एंड हाइट क्या है आपके पास? हाइट इज up to 8, so it means the height is 8. So it means that the area under this will be 16. Now you can use the formula for the trapezium, पर ट्रेपेजियम का नहीं भी यूज करते. सेकंड का एरिया किस तरह फाइंड करेंगे कि यू कैन सी द एरिया ऑफ द रेक्टेंगल. रेक्टेंगल का एरिया क्या होता है? लेंथ इनटू विड्थ. नाउ विड्थ क्या है? 7 minus 4. द विड्थ इज 3. तो 3 मल्टीप्लाई बाय हाइट. अब हाइट क्या है आपके पास? 8. So for the second one it will be 24. So now for the last portion you can see it is a right angle triangle. So 1 by 2, base is 3 and height is 8. Base is 3 and height is 8. So it will be, the final answer will be 12, because 2 1s are 2 4s are 4 3s are 12. So if you add all of them, so you can say 16 plus 24, it will be 40. 40 plus 12, its final answer will be 52. I hope the concept is clear. Now the next one is find the acceleration for each interval. Now how to find the acceleration for each interval? Now for acceleration you have to find out the gradient. Now gradient क्या है? For the first interval, the gradient will be y2 minus y1. This is the first point. On x-axis it's 4 and on y-axis it's 8. Similarly, this is the point 0 0 0 and 0. So y2 minus y1 means 8 minus 0 divided by x2 minus x1. So the speed will be, the acceleration will be 2 meter per second. Sorry, the unit of acceleration is meter per second square. So acceleration will be meter per second square. Now for the second one, the acceleration will be constant. And for the last portion, you can see here that the speed, the first point will be, on x-axis it's 7 and on y-axis it's 8. Similarly, on the second point, on x-axis it's 10 and on y-axis it's 0. So if I ask you to find out the value, so it will be 8 minus 0 divided by 7 minus 10. So 8 divided by minus 3. So negative acceleration shows you that it is the deceleration. Now I will recommend few practice questions from book D4. Question number 7, question number 10 is very important because it is showing the velocity time graph. Now at the end of each lesson, each video, you must ask few questions from yourself that what we have discussed. Today we have discussed the velocity time graph or speed time graph, and then I have recommended few questions from the book D4 7th edition. And if you have any question, अगर आपको एक्सरसाइज 9F के क्वेश्चन नंबर 7 और 10 को सॉल्व करने में कोई प्रॉब्लम आ रही हो तो प्लीज़ डू आस्क इट इन द कमेंट सेक्शन. बल्कि आपको पूरे लेसन में भी अगर आपको कोई क्वेश्चन हो तो यू कैन आस्क इट इन द कमेंट सेक्शन. So hopefully you have enjoyed the lesson, and if you have any question, please do ask in the comment section, and if you have liked the video then please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon. Otherwise please do share the feedback in the comment section. Thank you.